I will take a call. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
The Honourable Damien O'Connor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and indeed I relish the opportunity to take another call here, and in part 5 of this bill. And consistently inconsistent is, I think, the term we used from the previous part. And actually, I don't mind if I'm a little consistently inconsistent myself, and that is that I'm two minds here when it comes to clauses 154 through to 157, and that is the 50% increase in tax that is being imposed through this. Well, I guess if I can be consistent, if I can be inconsistent, I suppose, firstly, would be that I have to praise this. I have to say this is a good move because it's increasing the contribution to KiwiSaver.
Yes, yes.
But then I have to be inconsistent and say, unfortunately, it seems to run counter to everything else we hear from the National Party in this House. That is that tax is the root of all evil. Tax is the beginning of the end. And the more we reduce that, the more the economy can grow. That's what we hear. Ideology from idiots. Because we keep hearing it, and I'd have to say one of the classics is the man sitting over there, Mr. King, Colin King, because as a traditional farmer, he believes that without truly analysing it. We need to pay taxes to invest in good things. And this 50% increase in taxation being imposed by the national government here is actually a good thing, because it does up the level of contribution to KiwiSaver, a scheme that Mr. King and many of his colleagues would have called communism. And Mr. McKelvey would have said the same thing. KiwiSaver was communism, forcing people to do what they didn't want to do with their money. But that's what many of the farmers think around the place, because I've listened to the dribble coming out of the National Party for years and years and years. They understand smart investment when they see it. Farmers do. They also understand the value of KiwiSaver, of investing in our future. And if we hadn't been sucked in as selfish idiots back in the 1970s and listened and believed Robert Muldoon and wanting our cake and eat it too, we would have had a sound superannuation scheme and been a whole lot better off and been right up there with the Australians in terms of the level of investment income. But dare I say it, and I'm a farmer from a farming background, but a Labor Party farming background, thank God, which has given me hopefully a little bit more wisdom. Though traditional ones like Mr. McKelvey and Mr. King there, who got sucked into Robert Muldoon, they thought they could have their cake and eat it too, so they voted him in and voted superannuation out.
That's right, that's right.
And now, well, later, when we finally went under Michael Cullen and a Labor government, we got brave enough and we got to the point where we could afford to start investing in superannuation, real superannuation again. Of course, the National Party opposed it time and time and time again in this House. Well, they are. And of course, you know, they've sold this idea that you can have your cake and eat it too as well. We can sell off our assets and have this wonderful country going forward. That's ideology.
That's right.
Continued ideology from the National Party. But the other one is the mantra that lower taxes will all be better off, the economy will grow. They're just increasing taxes 50% here, which I think is a good thing, right? So I'm a bit inconsistent myself, I accept that. But what they're also doing in Part 5 is increasing a fee from $50 to $150. Fancy that. A 200% increase in a tax, in a compliance cost, the thing that the two farmers over there have rallied against and campaigned against and ranted and raved. And here they are, part of government. I bet the two members there are going to vote for this piece of legislation that increases the fee in Regulation 9-1A from $50 to $150. Let the country be aware of what is happening under the nose, under the direction of the National Party. There's another one. That's right, it doesn't stop there, because there's another regulation that allows an increase in fee from $30 to $75. That's a 150% increase, Mr Chairman.
The Honourable Damien O'Connor.
Thank you, Mr Chairman. Can I say that there are literally tens and dozens and if not hundreds of these little increases right across the National Act government's oversight and governance of this country, and people wonder why their costs are going up. Mr Speaker, if I can go back to another part of Part 5 here and ask, and hopefully the member and the chair might get up and answer this, because when I first came into Parliament, I have to say in the 1990s, when National was in government, I have to say, one of the most common issues raised in my electorate offices was that of child support. And it is unfortunately one of the challenges of New Zealand society. And this government's moving on that, they say. They're going to force solo mums and solo parents back to work. Thank you, Mr Speaker, but it does relate to child support, because I'm asking questions about what this might mean, the changes here that, if I can quote in section 8 with the Child Support Act, to whom section 33A applies, the Tax Administration Act applies. My guess is that this does alter the taxation regime relating to child support or the liabilities of each or both of the parents, and I would appreciate some explanation on it. I know there's a review underway. I don't know what this part relates to. I've asked my colleague who hasn't been able to clarify it. Maybe the Minister will. The point I make is that it is rightfully one of perhaps the most responsible areas of legislation that we should get right, and that is to ensure that every child in this country has the right level of support from either or both parents, enough support to make sure that they get a fair go. And I think that's the simplest way. There are amendments occurring here in this piece of legislation. The vast majority of people who may still be awake, who might have their TVs on and who are trying to work out what's going on here, they won't know perhaps what we're changing here. But can I say, if there is a consistency here, it's that if you're a poor solo parent, chances are the National Party has kicked you in the guts once again. Because most changes that they have, and that member won't admit it, but he knows it's true, most changes that have occurred by this government have been about kicking solo parents. No, they get a bit touchy here because they know it's true. They know it's true. That's right. That's right. GST increased. GST. Here we are for beneficiaries for these same solo parents, the parents who child support applies to. They're being told, one strike and you're out. Of course, as a criminal, you can have 3 strikes. Funny that. 3 strikes for a criminal, 1 strike for some poor person who's trying to bring up their child, who has to be on a benefit to try and protect their child. This is outrageous. This is Toryism to the core, and it's about time that we got it right, Mr Chairman, because he's rightfully pulling me back into Child Support Act here. I don't know what this change means. It is a technical change written into this piece of legislation here, and I'm concerned that it might make it harder, and that each and every one of us as MPs on both sides of the House may be asked at a clinic on Friday, we usually have them, I don't know about the National Party, might be asked what is going on here. And I'd just like to hear an explanation from the Minister, who I'm sure has his handle on what is happening here, and probably believes he's doing the right thing, but if he looks at the National Party record, it's not. Mr Speaker, Mr Chairman, in conclusion, I have to say that the changes here to KiwiSaver, in my view, are an increase in taxation, and the national government, when opposing us in the implementation of KiwiSaver, railed and ranted against what we were trying to do. They then cut the contribution, of course. They're now lifting it again.
Sorry to interrupt the honourable member. The time has come for me to report progress.
House has resumed. Mr Chairman.
Mr Speaker, the committee has considered the Taxation, Annual Rates, Returns Filing and Remedial Matters Bill and reports progress. The committee has considered the Airports Cost Recovery for Processing of International Travellers Bill and reports no progress. The committee has also considered the Legislation Bill and reports no progress. Mr Speaker, I move that the report be adopted.
The question is that the report be adopted. Those of that opinion will say aye. Aye. Contrary, no. The ayes have it. These bills are set down for further consideration in committee next sitting day, and the House stands adjourned until 2 p.m. tomorrow. Good evening, everybody.